Welcome back. We're live. You know, anytime you run into live things, especially with Facebook, it allows us to be able to answer questions, but also sometimes there can be technical difficulties. So we're just going to start back where we left off, and that was actually I had laid down the copper leaf onto the platter, and I came back and added just a little bit of the lacquer on top of this, so that allows you to be able to see how that can show through. The other thing is I want you to see that we're working in reverse. So work on the back of these platters or glassware that you're working with, and always make sure that you clean them with soap and water. You don't want to put them in the dishwasher. So that allows you to be able to see how we did this great looking platter. So I want to show you something else. It was a lot of fun. If you've been to the Dollar Tree, you see these mugs. Sometimes they're $2 for $1, sometimes they're $1, but look what a fantastic look. This is the same technique that we did over here on our platter. See where it's this broken gilding? And that is achieved by adding the sponge with the size on here. So what I'm doing is I'm basically taking my seawool sponge and my size, and I'm going to dip the sponge into the size again, and then I'm going to offload it onto some cardboard. And then I'm going to come back depending on where I want it to go. And see how as I lay that sponge down, see that area at the top of the sponge? That's what's giving me the brokenness when I come back and I lay my gold leaf on there. Isn't that neat? I think this is so much more interesting than just having a straight line on these mugs. Now, of course, I added the size everywhere on this handle. So after I apply the size everywhere on the mug, just come back with your leaf. Now, you know, I've been cutting this to size. On this one, I'm going to use just a little bit larger sheet. So lay it down like this. Pull your tissue out. Holding the entire book together, I want you to just burnish it really well. Look at that. This is so fun. You think about what would be a great gift to give someone for these mugs, and you don't have to tell them that you spent $4. Of course, you're going to have your gilding supplies, but you're only talking about literally probably about $1.50 cost to be able to do the gold leaf on it. So I'm not going to do the whole thing for the sake of time, but I do want to show you how you come back with your brush, and that way you're just going to clean up that edge, so that way you've got that beautiful jagged edge again, like we have on this mug. Isn't that awesome? So you can also, of course, use that on your stainless. You can use it on your platters. We can have it on our mugs. And look what a fun thing to be able to do to your stemware. So it's the same thing again. We brushed it solid here with our size, and then we sponged it up the stem, so that way it's just kind of broken. If you wanted to, you could continue to do this up on the glass, but I thought it would be fun just to be able to have it be a little bit more simple. And here's even a vase that we did. On this one, we just did a straight edge, so you could put some fresh flowers in this. You can get these at the Dollar Tree for $1. And easily take that to your guest or the person's house that may be the hostess that you're going to see, and tell her that she can keep those as a gift. So there's another thing that I yet to have shown you, and that's how to create faux marble. So be sure and ask questions. Hopefully we don't have technical difficulty and you can ask questions. So let me clean off my work table right here. Now, I did this earlier, and I want to show you just how easy it is to recreate this. Now, I've got to come back and buff this just a little bit because I put some wax on it, but it is so easy to create, and it's some simple tools that you probably have never thought about actually using. Now, the first thing, of course, you're going to start with is going to be the Amy Howard at Home one-step paint. Now, I've got a board here that's just masonite that I did earlier. And this has been painted with ballet white. So this would be something, you could actually do this finish on a wall. You can do it on your countertops. We're just going to make sure that we seal it well.
Can you use this on a laminate?
Yes, you could use this on a laminate because I want to show you the back of this. This is just masonite. So depending on what surface area you're going to start on, maybe you're doing the top of a piece of furniture. You're just going to paint the one step on top of it. Now remember, if you're not familiar with the one-step paint, you can adhere it to laminates, to melamine, to formica, glass, plastics, resins, all types of surfaces. That's going to prime it and get it ready for you to be able to do this too. So marble is so in, and it's really so easy to do. If you want to know how to do the glass backsplash that we did, I have a different process where I showed you how to do that with the glaze and the one step. So I have primed this with the one step, just one really good coat. We rolled it on, and now I've just gotten a pastel. It's a black pastel. If you want to do gray marble with white veining, you can start with A Good Man Is Hard to Find and do white chalk or white pastels, anything. So I want you to think about all the different colors that you can do. So now, working in a 45-degree angle from the upper left to the lower right is the direction I want you to go. As you're laying this down, you don't have to do it too heavy because it's going to be fairly dark. I want you to just kind of watch my wrist, how it will move and go straight and then turn it. So you think about a vein that you're going to be seeing in marble. It's going to meander its way around, and it's not going to be all the way straight across. Now, veins always travel in packs, so you want to try to do 3 or 4 at a time. Now watch how I'll drag this down here, and I'm going to go back up. Don't do this. A lot of people, when they vein, they make S's, or they try to make it too jagged. I want you to look how I'm holding it and how my wrist is just allowing it to fall, and how I'll roll it like this. It'll have a tendency to look much more natural. Now I'll even go back up, and I'll connect it to this area right here. I may even go up a little bit more, and then it may break off, come back up again, and come down. Think about South America. Think about how it's going to go in and out. It's going to look very organic.
What was that black again?
This is, so the question is, what is the black? This is just a black pastel marker. You can see I have it all over my hands. The other thing is too, I'll lay it on its side sometimes and add a little bit more dark. I'm going to show you in just a minute what this does. I may come in here and fill this in. You don't have to press too hard again. You can lay it on its side. See how this vein will come over and meet here?
Rosemary wants to know if you have an online tutorial for the kitchen series.
You know, that is a great question. Is it Marianne? Mm-hmm. Marianne, you can, Rosemary, you can go back and you can watch them on YouTube or Facebook from the very beginning. All of this series, they last from about 30 minutes to 40 minutes each week, so that way you can start with your kitchen cabinets, how to paint your kitchen cabinets, do your backsplash, and your floor cloths. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing this, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm working on. I don't want you to overdo it. But once you lay this in, now you can come back with a synthetic brush. See the movement on this brush? So it will allow me, watch this, and I'm going to pounce it, or I can move across it. And look how that black pastel will soften that. And it'll also pick up some of that charcoal from that pastel, and it'll gradate, kind of like it does in nature, and will add that gray color. Isn't that awesome? So you see how cool this would be to do this on a wall? Large Carrara marble walls are really in, and you can change up the colors with this and do it in a lot of different marbles, but the technique is going to be about the same. Carrara marbles are really strong about having large white veins, so that's why I thought it would be fun to show you how to do this one. So I'm going to darken this area just a little bit. Watch how I can come back. I can even take my fingers or a rag and fill it in. I like using my hands on things. I may even take it into this area here. Now, you're going to have to come back and you're going to have to seal this with your Bright Idea. You cannot roll on a sealer because basically it's going to lift this up and it's going to take it into other areas. So you're going to have to seal it, and this will give you a sheen because it will also seal this pastel to where you can go to the next step. So I tell you what, Gene, I'm going to ask for Gene's help for just a minute, and I'm going to have him take this to the back for me while I mix up the veining and have this ready for me just to be able to go to the next step. So, all right, Gene, if you want to, you don't have to do the whole thing. Just maybe this part up here, just a light coating, and I'm going to show him how to do the veining. All right, so in order to do the veining, on this piece that I had done earlier, see how subtle it is now? It's not quite as dark as it was before. It's because I'm going to do a glazing technique and build that up. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to take the Amy Howard at Home glazed over, and you're going to mix it with your paints. So I apologize that you can see how messy this is. Just make sure you've got a nice apron on that you can clean your hands. And I'm going to mix 1 part glazing liquid, I've already got some in here, to 1 part paint, and then a little bit of tap water. So it's 1 part paint, 1 part glazing liquid, and 1 part one step in whatever color that you choose. Now, you know, this technique of glazing can be used on a lot of different things. I use this on furniture. I use it on hardware sometimes. I'll tell you, I want to even show you this in just a second, how you can glaze almost anything. Now I did the same thing again. I've got Ballet White. I'm going to mix a little bit of Ballet White, 1 part water, 1 part one-step paint, and 1 part glaze. The great thing about this glaze is that it does have a sealant in it as well, so it will protect the piece that you're working on, and you don't have to come back and seal it if you don't want to on furniture. But since we're dealing with countertops, I would come back with the Bright Idea again. Now, I've got a beautiful white glaze. I'm going to add just a little bit of water to it. If it gets too thick, just thin it down. Now remember, this is live, so if you have questions, I can answer them for you now. Now watch this. I can just take a chip brush and I can literally put this glaze. I'm killing time because Gene's going to be bringing my board back, but I want to show you what this looks like. So I'm literally creating a white glaze on top of this gold that I gilded earlier, and it's really, really pretty. You've probably seen this before, but you didn't know quite what it was. And then I'll come back, I'll make a pad with my lint-free rag, and I'll just pat it. Look how pretty that is. Oh, I love it. You know what? I even love having, look at the contrast. Look at the solid gold up here, and look at this contrast with this white glaze on top of the gold down here. I'm going to leave it like that. I don't want them to match. I think that really adds a lot more interest.
How do you clean the pieces that you've gilded?
That's a great question. The question was, how do you clean the pieces that you've gilded? Once you've put the Bright Idea on top of it and sealed it, all you need to do is just dust it. If you get anything on it, you can easily just take some Windex or a cleaner and wipe it right off. It's not going to be difficult at all. These are great questions. Remember, we're live, so I want you to send those questions in so I can answer them for you while I'm doing this. Because a lot of people get really nervous to gild, but it's so easy to do. I'm just going to let this dry for about 15 or 20 minutes. And then I'm going to clean this off my glass, and I'm ready to go. Isn't that beautiful? So I could easily come back here and do a monogram, do some lettering with some stencils and add my size, and then come back and glaze it, and it would look beautiful. All right, so I've already got my glaze mixed. Jean's bringing my board.
Could you do this marble effect on tile?
You could do it on tile. Remember, you can do it on anything that you have the one step on. So any surface that you've got. All right, Jean, come on over. Do you think it's still wet?
Yes.
It is still wet? Do you want to fan it for me? All right, so we need to be able to just dry this very quickly. So I'm just going to fan it before I come back on top of it with the glaze. Remember to always make sure that you're working outside with this when you're lacquering because of the fumes from it. Look at the difference between this marble and the piece that I have here. So you have to work on it in stages because I like it set back and being very subtle. So now I'm going to come back with my glaze. I can either come back with the gray glaze or the white glaze. I think I'm going to come back with the gray glaze with my chip brush. Now watch this. I'm going to go back on top of it like this. I'm literally layering directly on top of what I sealed with my Bright Idea lacquer. I can add some of the white glaze in if I want to, but the gray is so pretty. And I want you to cover it 100%. Believe it or not, these techniques are a lot of the techniques that fine artists use. The way to get a really beautiful painting is all about layering and texture. So I'm not really concerned about the direction that my brush is going. I am wanting to make sure that I get a nice 100% application of this glaze. And you'll notice when I'm putting it on, look how I'm kind of working the same direction as I did the marble itself.
Is there much overspray with lacquer?
As far as overspray with lacquer, you do want to make sure that you're outside because when you're working on it, you want to make sure that you start off the surface and work your way all the way across and end off. That way you make sure you get the whole thing covered. So there is some overspray. I would recommend working with the lacquer outside, not indoors, only because of the fumes.
And is the sealer food safe?
The sealer is food safe. You just want to make sure if you're cutting anything, especially if you have a countertop again like this. I have come back and waxed it. I haven't buffed it yet, but I do want you to use a cutting board, especially if you're putting chicken or anything like that on there. I just want to make sure that it's protected with what you're working with. So, all right, so now I'm going to come back with a clean, lint-free rag. Now, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but there's, it's really important that you try to have a rag that doesn't have a whole lot of texture to it because it will show up in your glaze. Sometimes I use those Viva paper towels. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to make a pad. So as I pull this up on the ends, I want you to flatten it out so you have a nice flat surface. And I want you to come back and I want you to pat this glaze. Can you see that? See how that softened it? And it starts to kind of have a stone effect to it.
How long is the open time with the glaze?
Ooh, I love that question. You know what you're doing. Whoever asked that question, what's the open time?
Was Michelle.
Means basically how long have I got to be able to work on this? You've got a good 30 to 45 minutes, but I would work on areas that you can do, section it off. Remember, if you're working on a counter too, you can do it in sections to where it literally looks like a line. You don't have to make it look like one piece. Look as I've turned my rag. Notice how I'm continuing to take that glaze off in that direction that my veining is going. But yes, you do have about 45 minutes to be able to work with it. And I can come in, now see, can you see all the direction where my brush was? Now watch what I'm doing is I'm coming back with this pad and I'm just softening it to get that direction and my brush marks gone. But I can still have a little bit of that texture there because it looks like stone. This is going to take about 45 minutes to an hour to dry. I can put a fan on it and it's going to be a little bit quicker, but I want it to come to tack. Then I'm going to come back with just a little bit of my white glaze, and I might add it in. I don't have to do it everywhere this time. And you're going to see as you just kind of play with it how much fun it is and what a difference it can make. I'm going to hurry up here and try to get finished with this segment. I want to show you one more thing. So I'm just going to pat this. I can even come back in with a little darker glaze if I want to. And while this glaze is wet, I'm going to do this just a little bit heavier, and I want to show you something that's really fun. This is all about working with positive and negative effects. Right now I'm applying the paint, so this is positive, but when I take it away, that's negative. So watch this. I'm going to take a magic rub eraser or a pink pearl, and I'm going to lay it down into this glaze while this is wet, and I can pull. Watch that. See how that's making that look like a different depth in here? So that's, now I'm going back down underneath before I put that glaze on, so it almost looks like another layer of veining. I can lay the eraser down to pull that up and then come back up like that. Then I'll come back with my brush. So I like working with this round brush, and I'm just going to pat it to soften it so you really can't see what my tool will look like. Isn't that awesome? So you'll just continue to play with it. After this has continued to dry, I added just a little bit more white glaze to it. And then on this particular piece that I was doing, I came back and added my cerusine wax over it, which is a white wax. And then I want to get a clean rag and I want to show you. And I just buff it. So it has this beautiful, natural, kind of antique Carrara marble look to it. It's beautiful. It's going to wear wonderfully for years to come. This could even become different paintings that you want to be able to play with, to be able to create your own look and a lot of different colors. So be sure and tune in. We're going to be making an announcement on Facebook as far as our next series. It's going to be all about outdoor furniture, wicker, your upholstery, all those things that you're going to be needing when these hot summer days get ahead. So be sure and make comments, ask questions. We'll continue to answer those throughout tonight, and we'll announce the winner tomorrow of the faux marble and the gilding kit. Thanks again.